Dr. Elena Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she adjusted the atmospheric controls on Station Kepler 7. 3 months into her solo research mission, the isolation was beginning to wear on her. The orbital outpost hummed quietly around her, a metal sanctuary floating 400 kilometers above Earth's surface. Her mission was simple: monitor deep space radiation patterns and conduct biological experiments in zero gravity. What she didn't expect was to become a foster mother to the most extraordinary creature in the known universe. It started with an anomaly in the cargo bay sensors. Elena had been reviewing data from her latest plant growth experiments when the computer chimed with an unusual reading. The sensors detected an unauthorized life form signature coming from Storage Bay C, a section that should have contained nothing but emergency supplies and spare equipment. Her heart rate quickened as she considered the possibilities. Had something contaminated the food supplies? Was there a malfunction in the life support systems? Elena floated through the narrow corridors of the station, her magnetic boots clicking against the metal flooring with each careful step. The artificial gravity in this section was minimal, requiring her to move slowly and deliberately. As she approached Storage Bay C, she could hear something that made her blood run cold, a soft scratching sound, like claws against metal. The sound was rhythmic, almost musical, but definitely organic. She hesitated at the sealed door, her hand hovering over the access panel. Protocol demanded that she report any anomalies to ground control immediately, but curiosity got the better of her. Elena had always been driven by discovery, which is what made her one of NASA's most promising xenobiologists. She pressed her palm against the scanner and waited as the heavy door slid open with a mechanical hiss. The storage bay was dimly lit, filled with carefully organized containers and equipment racks. But there, nestled between 2 crates of freeze-dried meals, was something that defied every scientific understanding she possessed. A small, iridescent creature no larger than a house cat, with scales that shimmered like oil on water. Its wings were folded against its body, but she could see they were translucent and delicate, like a dragonfly's. The creature's head was distinctly reptilian, with large, intelligent eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Elena's breath caught in her throat as the creature turned to look at her. Those eyes, they were unlike anything she had ever seen. They shifted color from deep blue to emerald green, and there was an unmistakable intelligence behind them. The creature made a soft, chirping sound, almost like a question. It wasn't aggressive or frightened, merely curious about this new arrival. Her scientific mind raced through possibilities. This was clearly not any known species from Earth, and there had been no reported alien encounters or discoveries. How had this creature ended up on her station? The cargo manifests had been thoroughly checked before launch. Every item had been accounted for and cataloged. Yet here was undeniable proof of extraterrestrial life, sitting in her storage bay like it belonged there. Elena approached slowly, her hands raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The creature watched her carefully but didn't retreat. As she got closer, she could see more details of its incredible physiology. Its scales weren't just iridescent, they seemed to pulse with their own inner light, creating patterns that reminded her of aurora displays. Its claws were sharp but appeared to be retractable, and there were small ridges along its spine that suggested it might be capable of flight in the right atmospheric conditions. The creature chirped again, this time extending its neck toward Elena in what appeared to be a friendly gesture. She noticed something else extraordinary. The air around the creature seemed to shimmer slightly, as if it was generating some kind of energy field. Her instruments would need to analyze this phenomenon, but first, she had to decide what to do with her unexpected visitor. Elena realized she was witnessing the most significant discovery in human history. This creature was clearly a juvenile of its species, what researchers would call a hatchling. But from what species? And how had it gotten aboard her station? The implications were staggering. If this creature was here, where were its parents? Was this first contact with an alien species, or had this little one somehow been separated from its family? She knelt down slowly, and the creature tilted its head at her, those remarkable eyes never leaving her face. Elena extended her hand, palm up, and waited. After a moment of consideration, the small dragon-like being stepped forward and gently touched her palm with one delicate claw. The contact sent a strange, tingling sensation up her arm, not painful, but definitely otherworldly. In that moment, Elena Rodriguez knew her life had changed forever. She was no longer just a researcher studying the effects of radiation on plant growth. She had become humanity's first contact with an alien species, and this beautiful, mysterious creature was now her responsibility. The question was, what was she going to do about it? As she looked into those intelligent, trusting eyes, Alina made a decision that would alter the course of human history. She wasn't going to report this immediately to ground control. First, she needed to understand what this creature was, where it had come from, and what it needed to survive. She owed it that much. The creature seemed to sense her decision and settled down more comfortably, wrapping its tail around its body like a cat. Alina noticed that its breathing was steady and healthy, and it didn't seem to be in any distress despite being far from whatever world it had originated from. This little being was remarkably adaptable. Alina spent the rest of the day observing the creature from a respectful distance, taking careful notes about its behavior and physical characteristics. It seemed most active during what would have been daylight hours on Earth, suggesting it had some kind of circadian rhythm. It showed curiosity about its surroundings, but didn't attempt to leave the storage bay, as if it understood this was its designated space. As evening approached by Earth time, Alina faced her first major challenge as an accidental alien caretaker. What does a baby dragon from another world eat? She had no idea what its dietary requirements might be, or if anything on the station would be suitable for its consumption. This was going to require some creative problem-solving, and Alina had always been excellent at improvising solutions to impossible problems. The creature curled up on a soft blanket Alina had brought from her quarters, its scales continuing to pulse with that mysterious inner light. As she watched it settle down for what she hoped would be peaceful sleep, Alina began to formulate a plan. Tomorrow, she would begin the most important research project of her career, learning everything she could about her new companion while keeping its existence secret until she could determine the best way to reveal it to the world. She had no idea that this decision would soon put both their lives in incredible danger. Alina woke to the sound of gentle humming echoing through the station's corridors. For a moment, she thought it might be a malfunction in the air recycling systems, but as consciousness fully returned, she realized the melodic sound was coming from storage bay C. Her mysterious guest was apparently a morning singer. She floated quickly through the station, eager to check on the creature's well-being after its first night aboard Kepler 7. What she found when the storage bay doors opened stopped her in her tracks. The small dragon had somehow created what could only be described as art. Using its claws and some kind of natural secretion that dried into colorful patterns, it had decorated the walls of the storage bay with intricate designs that resembled star maps. The patterns were beautiful and complex, featuring swirling galaxies and what appeared to be planetary systems. Alina's trained eye immediately recognized that these weren't random decorations. They were sophisticated astronomical charts. The creature had somehow mapped out stellar configurations that matched real locations in deep space, some of which Alina's own instruments had recently cataloged. The implications hit her like a physical blow. This creature wasn't just intelligent, it possessed advanced knowledge of galactic astronomy. The precision of the star charts suggested it had either traveled vast distances across space or had access to information about star systems that human science was only beginning to discover. The creature looked up at her as she examined the wall art, its chromatic eyes seeming to hold amusement at her obvious amazement. Alina's first priority was figuring out what the creature could eat. She had brought various samples from the station's food supplies, including fruits, vegetables, and protein supplements. The creature showed polite interest in most items, but seemed particularly drawn to anything with high mineral content. It delicately consumed small portions of fortified nutrition bars and seemed to especially enjoy the metallic taste of iron supplements. What fascinated Alina most was how the creature ate. Rather than simply chewing and swallowing like Earth animals, it would hold food items between its claws and appear to analyze them before consumption. Sometimes it would reject items after this analysis, and Alina began to suspect it could somehow sense the molecular composition of potential food sources. The creature's behavior throughout the day revealed remarkable intelligence and adaptability. It seemed to understand that Alina was trying to help it and cooperated with her makeshift examinations. When she attempted to measure its temperature with a medical scanner, it held perfectly still. When she tried to take samples of the colorful secretion it used for drawing, it actually produced more of the substance and offered it to her. Communication became Alina's next challenge. The creature was clearly trying to convey information to her, but they had no common language. It would chirp in different tones and patterns, sometimes while pointing at its wall drawings. Alina began to record these vocalizations, hopping to identify patterns that might represent some form of linguistic structure. During one of these communication attempts, something extraordinary happened. The creature approached Alina and gently placed one of its claws against her forehead. Suddenly, Alina's mind was flooded with images, not her own memories, but visions of distant worlds and alien landscapes. She saw vast cities that seemed to be grown rather than built, with spires that twisted toward purple skies. She witnessed creatures similar to her small companion, but much larger, soaring through atmospheres thick with bioluminescent particles. The vision lasted only a few seconds, but it left Alina reeling with the implications. This creature wasn't just intelligent, it was capable of some form of telepathic communication. The images she had seen were clearly memories or knowledge from the creature's own experiences or collective consciousness of its species. As the day progressed, Alina noticed concerning changes in the station systems. Her computer began registering unusual energy readings throughout the station, and several instruments were picking up electromagnetic anomalies. At first, she thought there might be a malfunction in the station's power grid, but the readings seemed to be centered around Storage Bay C. The creature was apparently affecting the station's electronic systems simply by its presence. Alina observed that devices near the creature would sometimes display erratic readings or function in unexpected ways. Her tablet computer, when brought near the creature, began displaying symbols and characters that didn't match any known human writing system. It was as if the creature's natural bioelectric field was somehow interfacing with human technology. Alina realized she was facing a decision point. The longer she kept the creature's existence secret, the harder it would be to explain the growing anomalies in the station's systems. Ground control would eventually notice the irregularities in her reports, yet she felt a growing protective instinct toward the small being. It had shown her wonders beyond human imagination and had trusted her with its vulnerability. Late in the afternoon, while Alina was reviewing the day's data, she received an unexpected communication from Mission Control. Dr. James Harrison, the mission director, appeared on her main screen with a concerned expression. "Alina, we're showing some unusual readings from your station. Are you experiencing any equipment malfunctions?" Alina's heart raced as she considered her response. The creature was in the storage bay, probably creating more of its beautiful star charts, completely unaware that its very existence was about to complicate everything. "I've noticed some minor fluctuations, Dr. Harrison, nothing that's affecting critical systems. I'm running diagnostics now." "That's good to hear, but we're also detecting some strange electromagnetic signatures from your location. Have you modified any of the experimental equipment?" Dr. Harrison's voice carried a note of suspicion that made Alina's palms sweat. "Negative, sir. All equipment is operating within normal parameters as far as I can tell. The signatures might be related to the solar flare activity we detected yesterday." Alina hoped her lie was convincing. There had indeed been increased solar activity, which might provide cover for some of the anomalous readings. Dr. Harrison frowned at his off-screen instruments. "Perhaps, but we're going to need you to run a complete systems check and transmit the full diagnostic data. We're seeing patterns that suggest possible contamination or foreign interference with your station's electronics." The word contamination sent a chill through Alina. If ground control suspected any kind of biological contamination, they would immediately order her return to Earth for quarantine procedures. Her small companion would be subjected to invasive testing, and its gentle, trusting nature would be destroyed by scientists who saw it only as a specimen to be studied. After ending the communication with Dr. Harrison, Alina returned to Storage Bay C to find the creature had been busy. It had created an entirely new set of drawings, but these weren't star charts. Instead, they appeared to be technical diagrams showing the internal structure of the space station. The creature had somehow analyzed and mapped the entire station's layout, including systems that should have been completely hidden from view. The most startling detail was that the creature had marked several locations with symbols that seemed to indicate problems or potential failures. Alina recognized some of these locations as areas where she had been noticing minor issues: a ventilation unit that ran slightly warm, a power coupling that occasionally fluctuated. The creature had identified these problems without any apparent scanning equipment. Alina realized that her mysterious companion was trying to help her maintain the station. It had studied her environment and was offering assistance in the only way it knew how, by sharing its analysis through visual communication. The intelligence and consideration this demonstrated was both beautiful and terrifying. She was harboring a being whose capabilities far exceeded anything in human experience. As evening approached, Alina faced the most difficult decision of her life. Ground control's suspicions were growing, and she couldn't hide the electromagnetic anomalies much longer. Yet she had formed an unprecedented bond with an alien intelligence that had shown her nothing but trust and cooperation. The creature had shared its knowledge, its art, and even its memories with her. The creature seemed to sense her distress and approached her slowly. It placed its claw gently on her hand and again shared a telepathic image, this time showing Alina herself, but from the creature's perspective. She saw herself as the creature saw her, a kind, curious being who had offered friendship when it was alone and vulnerable. The image was filled with warmth and gratitude that brought tears to Alina's eyes. In that moment, Alina realized that she couldn't betray this trust. Whatever happened, she would protect her companion and find a way to introduce it to humanity on terms that respected its intelligence and dignity. But first, she had to figure out how to keep them both safe from the growing scrutiny of mission control. The creature curled up for the night, its scales pulsing gently in the dim light. Alina sat nearby, planning their next moves and wondering what other surprises her extraordinary guest might reveal. She had no idea that by morning, everything would change in ways she could never have imagined. Alina's sleep was shattered by the blare of emergency alarms echoing throughout the station. Red lights flashed in her quarters as she struggled to orient herself in the sudden chaos. The computer's automated voice announced what she feared most: unidentified object approaching. Distance, 50,000 kilometers and closing. She rushed to the command center, her mind racing with possibilities. Could this be connected to her small companion? The timing seemed too coincidental to ignore. Through the observation windows, Alina could see a massive shape moving against the star field, something far larger than any human spacecraft. The object appeared to be organic rather than mechanical, with flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent patterns. The creature in Storage Bay C had become agitated, producing urgent chirping sounds and rapid color changes in its scales. Alina found it frantically drawing new symbols on the walls, images that clearly represented the approaching vessel and what appeared to be reunion scenes. The small being's excitement was palpable, and Alina realized she was witnessing the arrival of its family. Communication channels crackled to life as ground control attempted to establish contact with the unknown vessel. Dr. Harrison's voice was tight with tension. "Kepler 7, we need you to move to minimum safe distance immediately. We're reading energy signatures unlike anything in our databases." Alina stared at the approaching ship through her instruments. It was beautiful in a way that human technology had never achieved: organic curves that flowed like frozen music, surfaces that shifted between transparency and opacity, and an overall design that suggested it had been grown rather than built. The ship was easily 10 times the size of the space station, yet it moved with grace and precision that made human spacecraft seem clumsy by comparison. "Ground control, the object doesn't appear hostile," Alina transmitted, watching as her small companion became increasingly excited. "Its approach vector is controlled and deliberate. I think it's trying to communicate." The response from Dr. Harrison was immediate and stern. "Alina, you're ordered to evacuate to your emergency pod immediately. We're detecting massive energy buildups that could indicate weapons systems." Alina knew she couldn't abandon her companion, especially when it was so close to reuniting with its own kind. She made a decision that would define the rest of her career. She chose to trust the intelligence and peaceful nature she had observed in the small creature. "Negative, ground control, I'm staying aboard to monitor the situation." The alien vessel came to a stop approximately 1 kilometer from the station, close enough for Alina to see incredible details of its construction. The ship's surface was covered with the same kind of star charts her companion had been creating, but on a massive scale. The entire hull was a three-dimensional map of the galaxy, with glowing points marking what Alina assumed were important locations. Suddenly, Alina's communication systems activated without her input. The screens filled with symbols similar to those her companion had been drawing, but these were moving and changing in complex patterns. It was clearly a form of writing or communication from the alien vessel, and Alina realized they were trying to establish peaceful contact. Her small companion began responding to the symbols, creating matching patterns with its bioluminescent scales. Alina watched in amazement as the creature conducted what appeared to be a conversation with the ship. The exchange was rapid and complex, far beyond anything Alina could follow, but the emotional content was clear. This was a joyful reunion between family members who had been separated. The communication lasted for several minutes before the symbols changed to simpler, more basic patterns. Alina realized the aliens were now trying to communicate directly with her. The symbols became increasingly pictographic, showing the space station, Alina herself, and what appeared to be expressions of gratitude. The small creature approached Alina and placed its claw on her hand, sharing another telepathic vision. This time, Alina saw the creature's story from its own perspective. It had been on an exploration mission with its family when their ship encountered a severe gravitational anomaly, what humans would call a black hole. In the chaos of their escape, the young creature had been accidentally ejected in an emergency pod that eventually found its way to Earth's orbital space, where it had attached itself to the supply shipment destined for Alina's station. The vision showed Alina the creature's fear and confusion at being alone for the first time in its life, and then the overwhelming relief and gratitude it felt when she had shown it kindness instead of fear. The creature's species had been searching for their lost family member for weeks, following the faint energy trail left by the emergency pod. Alina understood now why the creature had been so peaceful and trusting. Its species had no concept of hostility or aggression. They were explorers and artists, traveling the galaxy to create beautiful star charts and share knowledge with other intelligent species. The idea of humans as a potential threat had never occurred to them. Ground control was becoming increasingly agitated as they detected more ships approaching from deep space. Alina's instruments showed at least 6 more vessels, all similar in design to the first but smaller in scale. Dr. Harrison's voice crackled through the communication system with barely controlled panic. "Alina, we have multiple unknown contacts. Military units are being scrambled. You need to evacuate now." Alina made another crucial decision. She activated her personal communication system and transmitted directly to ground control. "Dr. Harrison, I need you to listen very carefully. The beings on these ships are not hostile. I have one of their family members aboard my station, and they've come to retrieve it. They're peaceful explorers who mean no harm to humanity." The silence from ground control stretched for nearly a minute before Dr. Harrison responded. "Alina, what exactly are you saying? Are you claiming you've had contact with alien life?" "That's exactly what I'm saying, sir. I've spent 3 days studying and communicating with one of their species. They're incredibly intelligent, peaceful, and they've been sharing astronomical knowledge with me. If we handle this correctly, this could be the beginning of peaceful contact with an advanced alien civilization." Alina knew she had just ended her career with NASA, but she couldn't let fear and military thinking destroy what could be humanity's greatest opportunity. The creature beside her seemed to understand the significance of the moment. Its scales pulsed with gentle, reassuring colors as it continued its communication with the alien ships. The lead alien vessel began transmitting new symbols, and Alina noticed these were being displayed not just on her screens, but on every electronic device throughout the station. The aliens were demonstrating their technological capabilities while simultaneously showing that they could have taken control of the station at any time, but chose not to. It was a clear message of peaceful intent. Alina's companion suddenly became very active, drawing rapidly on the walls while chirping excitedly. The new drawings showed what appeared to be an exchange. The creature would return to its family, but the aliens wanted to leave something behind as a gift for Alina. The drawings depicted books or data storage devices being transferred to the station. "Ground control, they want to conduct a peaceful exchange," Alina transmitted. "The young creature will return to its family, and they're offering to share some of their knowledge with us. This could advance human science by centuries." Dr. Harrison's response revealed the complexity of the situation they faced. "Alina, I understand what you're telling me, but I have military commanders breathing down my neck who see these ships as a potential threat. We need some kind of proof of their peaceful intentions." Alina looked at her small companion, who seemed to understand the human concept of proof. The creature approached Alina's main computer terminal and placed its claws on the interface. Suddenly, every screen in the station displayed a 3-dimensional map of the local stellar region, but with details that human science wouldn't achieve for decades. Star systems that had only been theoretical possibilities were mapped with precision. complete with data about planetary compositions and potentially habitable worlds. The creature was giving humanity a gift of knowledge that would revolutionize space exploration. It was demonstrating that its species valued learning and discovery above all else, and they wanted to share that passion with their new human friend. Elena transmitted this data directly to ground control, knowing that the scientific implications would be impossible to ignore. Dr. Harrison, are you receiving this stellar cartography data? This represents advancement in our understanding of local space that would take decades to achieve on our own. The response came not from Dr. Harrison, but from a new voice, Dr. Sarah Chen, the head of NASA's Xenobiology program. Elena, this is incredible. The level of detail and accuracy in these star charts is beyond anything we thought possible. Are you saying the aliens are willing to share this knowledge freely? Elena's companions seemed to understand the question and began creating new symbols that clearly indicated affirmation. More than that, the creature drew images showing ongoing exchange, humans and aliens working together to explore the galaxy, sharing discoveries and artistic creations. As Elena watched the beautiful, impossible scene unfolding around her, she realized that she had become the bridge between two civilizations. Her decision to treat a frightened alien child with kindness had opened a door that could change the future of both species. But the most challenging part of this historic first contact was still ahead, convincing the military leaders on Earth that these magnificent beings truly came in peace. The next several hours transformed into the most intense diplomatic crisis in human history. Elena found herself serving as an unofficial ambassador between species, while military forces on Earth prepared for what they perceived as a potential invasion. Her small companion had become increasingly anxious as it sensed the growing tension between its family and the humans gathering below. General Patricia Morrison, the head of Space Command, had taken control of communications from ground control. Her voice carried the weight of military authority as she addressed Elena. Dr. Rodriguez, I need you to understand the position we're in. We have 7 unknown vessels with technology far superior to ours positioned near one of our space stations. Regardless of their stated intentions, this represents a clear threat to national security. Elena watched through her observation windows as the alien vessels maintained their peaceful formation. They hadn't moved aggressively or shown any signs of hostile behavior, yet she could see on her instruments that Earth's military was mobilizing every available spacecraft. The situation was escalating toward a confrontation that could destroy humanity's first chance at peaceful contact with an advanced civilization. Her companion seemed to sense the growing danger and began creating urgent new drawings on the walls. These images showed space battles and destruction, but not as threats, as warnings. The creature was trying to tell Elena that its species had encountered this type of fear-based response from other young civilizations before, and the results had always been tragic. General Morrison, Elena transmitted, the aliens are aware of the military buildup, and they're trying to warn us about what happens when first contact goes wrong. They've apparently seen other civilizations destroy themselves through fear and aggression. The creature touched Elena's hand and shared another telepathic vision, this one more complex and disturbing than the others. Elena saw the ruins of what had once been beautiful cities on distant worlds, civilizations that had turned their weapons on peaceful explorers out of fear and xenophobia. She witnessed the aftermath, worlds cut off from galactic knowledge, left to struggle alone with problems that could have been easily solved through cooperation. Elena's companion showed her images of its own species' history, how they had once been a warlike people who nearly destroyed themselves before learning to value peace and exploration above conquest. They had spent thousands of years traveling the galaxy, seeking out intelligent species and sharing knowledge, hoping to prevent other civilizations from making the same mistakes they had made. General Morrison, I'm receiving additional information about their species' history, Elena transmitted. They've evolved beyond warfare and aggression. Their entire culture is based on exploration, learning, and preventing the kind of destruction we're threatening right now. General Morrison's response revealed the complexity of the human position. Dr. Rodriguez, I understand your perspective, but I have to consider the possibility that this is exactly what an advanced species would want us to believe before launching an attack. We can't risk the security of Earth based on trust alone. Elena realized that she needed to provide more concrete proof of the aliens' peaceful nature. She turned to her companion and tried to convey the human need for verification through drawings and gestures. The creature seemed to understand and began communicating with its family ships through rapid-scale patterns. Within minutes, something extraordinary happened. Alina's instruments detected that all 7 alien vessels had simultaneously powered down their primary energy systems. They were making themselves vulnerable as a gesture of trust and peaceful intent. No military force would voluntarily disable their weapons and defenses unless they truly meant no harm. "General Morrison, are you detecting this?" Alina transmitted excitedly. "They've powered down their main systems. They're making themselves defenseless to prove they mean no harm." The response from General Morrison was cautious, but showed she was beginning to understand. "We're seeing the power reduction, Dr. Rodriguez, but this could also be a tactical maneuver to make us lower our guard." Alina's companion suddenly became very active, drawing new symbols with urgent precision. These images showed the transfer process it had been anticipating, the young creature returning to its family while leaving behind data storage devices that contained vast amounts of scientific knowledge. But there was something new in the drawings, a request for Alina to accompany the creature for a brief visit to the main vessel. The implications of this invitation struck Alina like lightning. The aliens were offering her the opportunity to become the first human to board an extraterrestrial spacecraft. She would be able to see their technology firsthand and serve as a witness to their peaceful nature. But accepting would mean placing herself completely at their mercy, with no guarantee of safe return. "General Morrison, they're requesting that I visit their main vessel as part of the exchange process," Alina transmitted, knowing this would cause an immediate crisis in the command structure on Earth. The silence from ground control lasted nearly 5 minutes before General Morrison responded. "Dr. Rodriguez, that is absolutely out of the question. We cannot permit you to board an alien vessel under any circumstances." Alina's companion seemed to understand the human reluctance and began drawing alternative scenarios. The new images showed the exchange taking place in neutral space, with Alina remaining in her own spacecraft while the creature was transferred. The aliens were willing to compromise to accommodate human fears and concerns. But Alina found herself considering the original invitation. She had formed a genuine bond with this intelligent, peaceful being, and its family had shown nothing but trust and generosity. They had shared knowledge, made themselves vulnerable, and consistently demonstrated peaceful intentions. Perhaps the only way to convince humanity of their nature was for someone to take the leap of faith. "General Morrison, I'm considering accepting their invitation," Alina transmitted, knowing her words would cause panic in the command center. The response was immediate and furious. "Dr. Rodriguez, you are hereby ordered to maintain your position and prepare for extraction. Under no circumstances are you to approach the alien vessels." Alina looked at her small companion, who was watching her with those remarkable color-shifting eyes. She thought about the past 3 days, the trust they had built, the knowledge they had shared, and the incredible opportunity this represented for both species. Then she thought about the military forces preparing for battle below and the tragic history of civilizations that had chosen fear over understanding. Her companion touched her hand one final time and shared a vision that nearly brought her to tears. The creature showed her what the future could look like if humans and its species worked together, joint exploration missions discovering incredible worlds, shared art and music that combined human emotion with alien wisdom, and advances in science that would benefit both civilizations for thousands of years. Alina made her decision with full knowledge of the consequences. She activated her personal communication system and transmitted to General Morrison. "General, I'm going to accept their invitation. Someone has to take the first step toward trust, and I'm the only human who's had direct contact with their species. Dr. Rodriguez, if you attempt to leave that station, you'll be in violation of direct military orders and will be subject to court-martial upon your return," General Morrison replied. Alina's companion had been following the conversation through their established telepathic link, and it seemed to understand the sacrifice Alina was considering. The creature began drawing new images showing Alina being safely returned to Earth with honor and respect, carrying proof of alien peaceful intentions that would convince even the most skeptical military leaders. As Alina prepared for the most important decision of her life, she realized that the next few hours would determine whether humanity's first contact with an alien civilization would be remembered as the beginning of a new age of cooperation, or as the tragic moment when fear and aggression destroyed an unprecedented opportunity for advancement and understanding. The alien vessels waited patiently in space, their powered-down state maintaining the gesture of trust they had offered. Alina's companion watched her with trusting eyes, ready to return to its family, but hoping that the friendship they had formed would become the foundation for a lasting peace between their peoples. Alina looked out at the stars and made her choice. She would trust in the intelligence and peaceful nature she had observed, even if it meant risking everything she had ever known. The future of human-alien relations hung in the balance, and Alina Rodriguez was about to become the most important ambassador in human history. Alina suited up in her emergency spacewalk gear, her heart pounding as she made final preparations for what would either be humanity's greatest triumph or her own final mission. Her small companion watched with obvious excitement, its scales pulsing with colors she had learned to associate with joy and anticipation. The creature understood that this moment represented the culmination of their friendship and the beginning of something much larger. General Morrison's voice crackled through the communication system one final time. "Dr. Rodriguez, this is your last chance to reconsider. We have extraction teams standing by." Alina sealed her helmet and looked at her reflection in the storage bay's polished surfaces. 3 days ago, she had been a simple research scientist studying plant growth in zero gravity. Now she was about to become the first human ambassador to an alien civilization. "General Morrison, I understand the risks, but someone has to be the first. History will judge whether we chose courage or fear in this moment." The alien vessel's docking bay opened with fluid grace, revealing an interior that seemed to glow with soft, natural light. Alina's companion chirped excitedly and began moving toward the opening, then stopped and looked back at her with what she could only interpret as an invitation. Together, they moved through the connecting passage that the aliens had extended from their ship to the station. Stepping aboard the alien vessel was like entering a living organism rather than a spacecraft. The walls curved organically and seemed to pulse with gentle bioluminescence. The floors had a slightly yielding texture that made walking comfortable, and the air carried a subtle fragrance that reminded Alina of spring gardens after rain. Everything about the ship's design suggested beings who valued beauty and harmony above pure functionality. Alina's companion was immediately surrounded by others of its kind beings similar in basic structure, but larger, and with more elaborate scale patterns. The reunion was joyful and touching, with complex color displays and musical chirping that filled the chamber with celebration. Alina watched with tears in her eyes as the young creature was welcomed back into its family group. One of the adult aliens, distinguished by particularly intricate patterns on its wings and scales, approached Alina slowly. When it placed a delicate claw on her forehead, Alina experienced the most profound telepathic contact yet. Instead of simple images, she received complex concepts and emotions: gratitude for caring for their young one, admiration for her courage in trusting them, and most importantly, a formal invitation to witness their knowledge and culture. The lead alien guided Alina through the ship, and each chamber revealed wonders beyond human imagination. They passed through a vast library where information was stored in crystalline structures that pulsed with light, containing the accumulated knowledge of thousands of years of galactic exploration. Alina saw art galleries where sculptures and paintings seemed to move and change, creating new beauty with each viewing. In the ship's central chamber, Alina witnessed something that would revolutionize human understanding of the universe. The aliens had created a three-dimensional map of the entire galaxy, showing not just star positions, but the locations of intelligent civilizations, trade routes between friendly species, and areas where young civilizations like humanity were developing. Earth was marked with symbols that Alina somehow understood meant protected and promising. The lead alien shared more complex telepathic concepts with Alina, explaining that their species served as guardians and guides for developing civilizations throughout the galaxy. They had been aware of humanity for centuries, watching human development with interest and occasionally providing subtle guidance through what humans interpreted as scientific breakthroughs or inspired discoveries. Alina learned that her young companion's arrival at the station hadn't been completely accidental. The creature had volunteered to make contact with humanity when its ship encountered the gravitational anomaly, seeing an opportunity to establish peaceful relations with a species that had shown promise for wisdom and growth. The accident, had been a calculated risk to test human reactions to alien contact. Through the telepathic link, Alina experienced the aliens' perspective on human development. They saw humanity as a species with tremendous potential, but also one poised at a critical decision point. Humans could choose the path of cooperation and exploration, joining the galactic community of peaceful species, or they could succumb to fear and aggression, isolating themselves from the benefits of interstellar knowledge sharing. The aliens showed Alina recordings of their interactions with other species throughout history. She witnessed civilizations that had welcomed contact and flourished, developing technologies and artistic achievements that surpassed anything possible in isolation. But she also saw the tragic examples of species that had responded with hostility, cutting themselves off from galactic civilization and eventually stagnating or destroying themselves through warfare. Alina realized that her response to finding the young creature had been a test of humanity's readiness for contact. By choosing kindness over fear, by protecting rather than exploiting the vulnerable alien, she had demonstrated that humans possessed the empathy and wisdom necessary for peaceful coexistence with other intelligent species. The lead alien communicated one final, crucial piece of information to Alina. Their species was prepared to offer humanity membership in what they called the Galactic Cooperative, a loose federation of peaceful civilizations that shared knowledge, resources, and artistic achievements. Earth would receive access to technologies that could solve climate change, cure diseases, and enable interstellar travel, but only if humanity could prove it had evolved beyond the need for warfare and conquest. Alina was given a crystalline data storage device containing fundamental scientific principles that would advance human technology by centuries. But more than that, she was entrusted with the responsibility of convincing her species to choose cooperation over conflict. The aliens would wait for humanity's decision, but they wouldn't wait forever. As Alina prepared to return to the station, her young companion approached her one final time. Through their telepathic connection, she felt the creature's deep gratitude and friendship, along with a promise that this wouldn't be their last meeting. If humanity chose the path of peace, Alina would be welcome to visit their worlds and continue the learning exchange they had begun. The return to the station felt surreal after the wonders she had witnessed aboard the alien vessel. Alina carried with her not just the data crystal, but also the weight of representing her entire species in the most important decision in human history. As she watched the alien ships prepare to depart, she knew that everything that happened next would depend on humanity's ability to overcome fear and embrace the incredible opportunity they had been offered. General Morrison's voice was the first to greet her return. "Dr. Rodriguez, report your status immediately." Alina looked at the data crystal in her hands and thought about the choice facing humanity. "General, I have information that will change everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. These beings aren't invaders or conquerors. They're teachers and guardians who want to welcome us into a galactic community of peaceful civilizations." The alien vessels began moving away from the station, but slowly, giving humanity time to process what had happened and make their decision. Alina's young companion had returned to its family, but the friendship they had formed would forever link two species across the vast distances of space. As Alina prepared her report for Earth's leaders, she reflected on the incredible journey that had begun with a simple cargo bay anomaly. A frightened alien child had become the bridge between worlds, and a routine research mission had evolved into humanity's first step toward joining a galactic civilization. The choice now belonged to all of humanity. Would they follow Alina's example of courage and trust, or would they allow fear to close the door on the greatest opportunity in human history? The aliens would wait for their answer, but Alina knew that the window for peaceful contact wouldn't remain open indefinitely. Looking out at the stars that no longer seemed empty and distant, Alina Rodriguez realized she had lived through the most important moment in human history. Now, she had to convince her species that sometimes the greatest courage comes from choosing trust over fear, and that the universe was far more wonderful and welcoming than humanity had ever dared to imagine.